The Arizona State Sun Devils are headed to St. Paul, Minnesota, where the NCAA Tournament is on the line. I'm Leah Merrall here with Steve Peters. We're back for another edition of the PHNX Hockey podcast, this time to preview the NCHC Frozen Faceoff. PD, what a weekend for ASU last weekend. First of all, we're gonna look ahead to Denver. We're gonna look ahead at the path through this weekend and potentially into the tournament. We'll hear from Coach Powers and Artem Schlane as well. But let's talk about last weekend at the Mullet.
Leah, the Mullet was, we use this term a lot here, electric, because it was. And I think what's so interesting is this is a school that was playing in Oceanside just a few years ago that most little kids can't play at. That's how bad. No offense to us. Well, it's not there anymore.
It's
so
not
it doesn't exist. It was a bad hockey arena. Now you go to Mullet and you see what hockey was meant to be here at ASU, and under a program in the Southwest that's not a traditional hockey market and not a traditional hockey school, and what that can become if you have the right people in place. And that right person, by the way, is Greg Powers. Like, he made that happen. That weekend there, phenomenal and against a hockey power in the NCAA. I mean, like, Duluth's a national champion. They've won before. They've been in these kind of positions several times, and to see that kind of a game here in Arizona on that kind of a weekend and have hockey fans show up, I thought was unbelievably cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. First high-level playoff hockey game in Arizona since 2012. So can't believe how long it's been. Friday, ASU won 4-3. Both games were kind of crazy. So Friday, ASU took a 2-0 lead. UMD tied it. They traded goals back and forth. Anthony Dowd scored the game winner in the third period. And then Saturday was even more crazy. UMD took a 3-0 lead in the first period. ASU, who hasn't been great in second periods, came back to score 3 straight in a very short span of time. Both teams traded goals back and forth. It was absolutely insane. And then Ryan Kerwin scored the overtime winner for ASU to sweep that series, win the game 6-5 in overtime. And a little shout out to Ryan Kerwin, his 25th goal of the season broke a program record set by Matthew Copperwood and Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker, the longest tenured Sun Devil potentially of all time. Yeah, maybe.
35, 2 kids.
And 25 goals. Ranks second in the entire NCAA.
Yeah, one of the things this ASU team can score. I mean, this is an offensively gifted team. You talk about speed. You talk about even experienced guys. The guys are upperclassmen, but this team can score. And I think when you looked at the Duluth series, you saw fire wagon hockey, where it was back and forth. And we're going to get to some of the comments on Coach Powers on how they can't do that against some teams. but how this was just an up and down the ice, high-skilled, high-scoring affair, and this ASU team can score. And I think that's important when you get into these very important games like they're going to play this weekend in Denver, or if they can possibly make the NCAA tournament. This is a team that can score, and Ryan Kerwin leads the way, and he scores any way you ask him to score. He can get to the net, score off the rush, he can score power play goals, and here he gets one in overtime. So I'm not worried about their ability to generate offense at ASU.
Yeah, absolutely not. 2 big takeaways from this weekend, besides the fact that, ASU took care of business against Minnesota Duluth.
You didn't even talk about it enough.
The energy in that building, when Ryan Kerwin scored in overtime on Saturday, that was the loudest, and I've been to Mullet a lot.
Yep. Loudest
I've ever heard it in my entire life. Both Greg Powers and multiple players after both games, they acknowledged how much the crowd meant to them, how, especially in that second period comeback, just scoring 1 got the crowd into it, and they fed off that, and that's what kind of allowed them. Maybe that wouldn't have happened if it was at another site. But just to see the hockey community come together and cheer on their, for a lot of, obviously there's a lot of fans who've always been Arizona State hockey fans, but for many who, lost the Coyotes, this was now a team that they could rally behind, and ASU has delivered and giving them a product to cheer for.
Yeah, and it was fun. We know that when we go to the Mullet, you're going to see the same familiar faces, but I think this was the biggest deal in hockey in the state of Arizona. I do have quick notes to Arizona State faculty and staff and the athletic department, in case you're listening, because you probably are. 2 things. If we want this to go to the next level for next season, we need to see a band.
Ooh, the band would have been fine. It was
Fire.
spring break, I will say.
Understood.
That is the one
And I
downside.
get it that we don't need the 40-piece orchestra. You
Just
could
maybe
put
some like drummer.
handful.
Yeah.
Put a handful.
In the
because you go to some of these college buildings in the Midwest or back east, and you see the band, it makes a difference. It does. So that's tip number one, and then a cheer squad. We're gonna get there. We'll get there, ASU, because I don't think the crowd needed any help on this particular thing. And huge shout out to the ASU fans.
Unreal.
That ASU
and the student
section,
the student section.
The student section.
Especially
Unbelievable.
with it being spring break.
Their chants, and like they've got like scripts, I guess. Like some of those were long.
Yeah.
Like I gotta take notes.
The poor goalie.
Poor goalie. Was outstanding. Like that ASU student section was absolutely incredible. And it's funny because I went to a game at Oceanside and they tried. Like the student section tried. It was 4 rows of metal bleachers and they tried.
In the coldest arena on planet Earth.
But they tried. This was a real student section. And I tell you what, they were engaged. They knew, like they turned their back when they announced the other team's starting lineup. And when the starting lineups look like they're looking at it because that's where the flag is, and everybody turns around and goes,
who cares?
Yeah, it was really good. So great job to the ASU student body and the way you're supporting this hockey team. And the athletic vibe on campus right now is phenomenal.
Yeah.
This athletic department is doing fantastic things. And it's only the beginning as far as hockey is concerned.
Yeah, and a couple of things. One of the other takeaways from the weekend was to see the support of the hockey community with this particular playoff series has been amazing. And what it does is it creates more fans, because when you go, hey, I got tickets to this game, want to come? All of a sudden you're watching and you're like, oh my God, like I'm getting on the bandwagon, not even just getting tickets, but the ability to watch it. If you have an antenna, it was free over the air. If you have Cox, it was on Channel 9. This weekend's games, they're all going to be on the CBS Sports Network. So if you have cable or access to cable, you can check it out, which is amazing. But it helps put ASU on the map, I think. And we talk a lot about the transfer students to this team, and besides the beautiful building, the amazing weather, why they want to come here. And I think if now you watch these games and you think, okay, they saw the vision, the transfer students saw the vision, the coaching staff sold the vision, but they were correct about what they were talking about. And that's actually something that Artem Schlane, who is, of course, transferred here and has been unbelievable for ASU this season, talked about why he kind of decided to come here and his thoughts. So here's what he had to say.
The biggest sales pitch for me, I've been in the portal twice already, and it's not about, the bright and shiny new arena or, all the other kind of bonus stuff for me. It's about the coaches, the coaching staff, the staff, and the players in the locker room. Like looking just at the roster right away, you can see the potential of that team, and we're going to be really good. And I don't know how other people didn't see it and they missed it, and it's on them. But I think we're proving people wrong, and that's what drives our and motivates us. We're proving our followers right and proving the people who didn't believe in us wrong. I think overall, when I just started talking to the coaches, it's just like that belief in me as a player, that they would give me an opportunity. And I think they were honest, and, they kind of gave me an opportunity. I think I ran with it, and I'm really happy with how the season has gone. But we're not done yet, and we're going to Minneapolis to win this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leah, I'm going to tell you this. I'm older. Can't go back to college. But if I could, why wouldn't you go here? Like ASU checks about every box, and now they've got a hockey program that I can officially call a winning program now. So you've got all of the things that you can do hockey-wise, but then you bring in the weather and the community and the fan base.
Well,
don't miss out.
And the community part, and it's kind of been Patrick Brown wrote an amazing article for gophnx.com on Sunday. So definitely check it out. But it was about kind of the void that ASU hockey is filling and kind of how they're helping heal the hearts of Valley hockey fans. And since Patrick wrote that story, there's been a ton of local news stories about similar things. But it's so true. And Greg Powers was asked about, ASU's role in this hockey community. So here's what he had to say.
I think it's meant to our hockey community a ton. It's a huge void, and I don't think anybody can fill the void of the National Hockey League. That's not going to happen until it returns. But, we have done a great job of being active in the community and obviously, giving the hockey community something to really be excited about. They've been incredible to us, most importantly, packing Mullet every night. And as the season went on and as stakes became more and more elevated, you could feel the energy get even better and better in the building. So it's been a fun year, being able to give the hockey community something to cheer for and be excited about. And I think it's been a year that we have grown so much, in the community that next year it's just going to continue to get better and better.
And is that maybe a selling point of your program that, hey, we're in a community of 5 million people and this is the big show as far as hockey goes?
I think it has to be. I mean, you look at some of the videos and you reflect on last weekend, playoff hockey, first time any sort of playoff hockey at a very high level has been in the Valleys, since 2012, and the environment was outrageously good. So it's a huge selling point. And, I don't know what player could look at those videos and not want to be a part of that.
Very underrated was it being also another recruiting tool.
Yeah.
Like, this is the hockey product in the Valley.
I look at, if you want to get a kid to come to ASU, bring them out here in February, first of all, because that's the time to bring a kid, especially from Western Canada or the Midwest, and then take them to a game. I'm telling you that this atmosphere in that building, and I know it was a playoff weekend, and I know it was even higher than normal, but that building's been full the entire season. Yeah. That is what ASU hockey has become here in the Valley. Yeah, do I think part of it is the void of the NHL? Yeah, probably, but not all of it.
No.
Because that building was full before. Yeah. And we were there when Josh Doan scores the first goal in the building.
Yeah.
The roof almost blew off.
Yeah.
Like, this is a recruiting tool because it is an amazing atmosphere in a building on a campus that's
like right on campus.
It's unbelievable.
Right next to the football and basketball stadium.
In the shadow of the Mullet is not casting shadows on the football stadium, but vice versa maybe. But especially when you're looking at how the Power 5 conferences is across all sports, it's going to be a big deal. And not that it isn't already, because it is. But I think it's only going to grow, and I do think it's going to attract more of the top players across North America to come here to play.
For sure. Well, no more Mullet magic for this team this year. That was the last game of the season played. But that is good news because ASU is now moving on, like I mentioned, off the top to St. Paul for the Frozen Faceoff. The way it works, Friday, 2 semifinal games, and then Saturday is the championship. And for ASU, you win and you're in. ASU faces off against Denver. The puck drop, unfortunately, for a lot of people, is at 2:07 p.m. Arizona time. Perfect. Well, perfect for you. Not perfect for people who work 9 to 5 jobs or are in school. So that is a little bit of a bummer, but it is on CBS Sports. So, by the way, it's also March Madness, so everyone's watching TV at work anyway. Yeah.
Personal day.
Take a day. Take a half day. It's a Friday.
It's a Friday, and it's 2:07.
Exactly.
I'm not feeling so good. Something hit me bad at lunch.
Exactly. Huge matchup, though.
Huge.
Denver, of course, reigning national champion, number 3 in the NCHC. Denver is also in the tournament. Like, they just based on their pairwise, they didn't have the crazy years that they've had in the past, but they had a really strong second half. This is still a powerhouse team, potentially one of the best college hockey coaches in the entire NCAA, who is probably next in line to get an NHL job, if we're being totally honest. So Denver is an absolute powerhouse. The good news for ASU is they won the season series 3-1, and the one loss was an overtime loss.
Yeah, it's funny because when they faced off for the first time this season, it was the 12th game of the season for the Denver Pioneers. At that point, when ASU traveled up to Denver, Denver was number 1 in the country. They'd won 11 straight games to start the season, and they were the defending national champions. And you go, oh my gosh, they're on a roll. ASU's in trouble. ASU goes in there, wins 2, pushes Denver out of the top spot, and then they do it again when they come back here. Denver was number 6 at the time, and then they split with them here. But Denver has 10 losses the entire season. 10. 3 of them are to ASU. And it's absolutely insane how well ASU has matched up against this Denver team. And we talk about speed and skill. I think that's why they've been able to match up so well against Denver. Denver's another high-powered offense. It's a team that can get up and down the ice quickly. It's a team that can score goals. You look at what they've their goals for this season. they dominate. They're 157 goals for this season. ASU's got 134 or 24. These two teams can score. This is going to be an unbelievable matchup. And there's so many things that you can look at. ASU's playing extremely well the second half of the season where they struggled a little bit early. They're scoring goals right now, which I think is important. But they've been there. They've won.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of nerves
multiple
there.
times.
Yeah. So I think that this is a fantastic game at 2:00 on a Friday. I'm looking forward to this matchup.
Yeah. We sat here last week and compared ASU stats to UMD's, and ASU dominated in every single category. ASU, of course, was the number 2 seed in the NCHC. UMD was 7. This is 2 and 3. So it's about as close as you can get. And you just look down the column of Denver's stats. I mean, they're either right there with ASU or slightly better. The power play,
two of the 3 best power plays in the country.
Yeah,
number 2 and number 3.
It's unbelievable. So it's going to be a tough game. The good news is ASU has done it before, so that potentially could instill some confidence in them that they could do it again. But a couple of factors to note going into this weekend. So Kyle Smolin, who we actually interviewed on our last preview show last week, unfortunately, he got injured in game 1 versus UMD, and he was in the hospital for a couple of days as a precaution. The good news is he will be fine, but it's still unclear if he's going to get cleared for this weekend. Questionable, maybe. So, obviously wishing the best for his health, number 1, but Greg Powers did say that he will be okay in the long run. But if he's out of the game, it's going to be tough for them, losing, his versatility, him on the penalty kill unit as well. The goalie decision is another question mark. Coach Powers said in availability this week, it's going to be a matchup related decision and based on practice. We saw Luke Pavicic have a really strong game on Friday night, and then he ended up getting pulled after the first period on Saturday, but it wasn't his fault. And that Greg Powers even said that he just made a goalie change and went to Gibson Homer just to mix up the juju, and it worked. Yeah. So you now are looking at 2 goalies who won both games. So
here's where I'm gonna, just like I used to do in Coyotes games.
Oh yeah, when you would guess and usually be wrong.
It's Luke Pavicic, and I'll tell you why it's Luke Pavicic, because when the important games came down in the second half of the season, it was Luke Pavicic. And when you go to the Duluth games at home, Luke Pavicic gets both starts. I think he's the guy they're going to go to on Friday. Again, Greg Powers has not announced his goaltenders, but I think you have to go with Luke Pavicic. If he would have given up a goal from the red line and a dribbler beats him in those goals against Duluth in the first period, then maybe you have a question. I don't think it were his fault. I will say this: Gibson Homer now, as the leash can be very short now, because you have a lot of confidence in Gibson Homer during this tournament, that if you have to go to Gibson Homer, you feel really good about it. If you go the other way, and this is the way coaches think. If you go to Gibson Homer and he struggles, now you're going, we made a mistake. This way, I think if you go with Pavicic, and I don't anticipate he'll struggle, but if he does, you're real confident in putting Gibson Homer. So I would expect Luke Pavicic to play. I think they're confident in both goaltenders into a tournament, which I think is important, especially if somehow they can put 2 wins together and break through into the NCAA tournament.
One other factor to note is that ASU has an extra day of rest. So ASU got their series done, their best of 3 done in 2 on Friday and Saturday. Denver actually lost their first quarterfinal game to Colorado College. So that went to 3 games, but then they kind of took it to them 6-3 and 9-2 in the ensuing games. But ASU did have that extra rest day. So that could easily make a difference. Yeah.
And this time of the year, everybody's got little bumps and bruises, and playing one more high energy game where you're going to physicality and those injuries can mount up and they can make a difference. Both teams are probably traveling today. And so tomorrow will be the practice day.
On Wednesday.
Yes.
Traveling on Wednesday.
No morning skate on Friday. You're playing at 2 p.m. It's going to disrupt a lot of people's routines, your daily routines, playing at 2 p.m. because you don't traditionally play at that time of day. They're both coming from the West, so your time zones will be the same. But one of the things to look out for in this game is see who can get the quicker start. And I think it's important. I think it's more important for ASU to get that quick start. And I think we always say being tied or even after the first 10 minutes. And I think for the ASU Sun Devils, I think that's imperative. So when you're watching this game Friday, I think if ASU can stay tied or even after 10, they're in a really good spot because they can handle that initial onslaught and they can get into their game. So look for that first 10 minutes.
For sure. And obviously it's different. Last weekend, they were coming off a bye week. It was a best of 3. It was at home. This week, they're at a neutral site. It's one and done games. So I actually asked Coach Powers how their approach changes with that in mind. And here's what he had to say.
I mean, I just urgency, desperation, all those things. I think that the message, really from me consistently since Saturday has been, hey, like every time you put on our jersey, it could be your last for the guys that are out of eligibility. And we believe if our guys play with that urgency and desperation of not making it their last, we love our chances against anybody. We've been as good as anyone in the country for the last, I think, 2/3 of the season. And if we play with a certain level of urgency and desperation, we like our chances again, like I said. So it's just consistent messaging and making sure the guys, no matter what the result is, leave it all out there, and I'm confident that they will.
The whole thing about college sports playoffs, and we're seeing it with March Madness this week, is for a lot of these guys, like this could be the last games of their career.
Insane.
Like literally, if ASU loses at any point this weekend, like for a bunch of those guys, it's the last college games they're ever playing, and there's just something so crazy about that. So Coach Powers even mentioned it. It could be the last time they're putting on the ASU jersey. So there's a lot at stake, but just based on everything we've seen, there seems to be a lot of internal confidence in that room with the coaching staff and with the team. But it's still daunting.
It's funny because you're right. Friday night by dinner time, the season could be over. I don't get that sense from this ASU team. I think they feel they've got some unfinished business. And I tell you, when you listen to Coach Powers talk, he's an unbelievable speaker. He's great with the media. I know he's got that journalism background, the Kronk, I got it, I heard it. But he's really good speaker. And if you can imagine the pregame speeches or the meeting speeches he can give to these guys to get them fired up. And I'll tell you what, when you get into a playoff game like this, that makes a difference. Your ability to rise to the occasion and have that motivation that gets you over the hump. Both these teams are skilled. They're both good teams. They're 2-3. They're equal across almost every metric. It's what gets them that little bump above. And I got to take my hat off to Coach Powers. Every time I question him or doubt him or say, gosh, I'm not sure you guys can do it, they do it.
Yep.
And this is another one of those opportunities that this is a huge, huge moment for ASU hockey.
Yep.
If you can get over and beat the reigning national champion in the first round of this playoffs to play in the finals of the best conference in college hockey in the first year that you're in that conference, man, that's a huge statement for ASU.
Yeah. And they had that statement when they went to Denver earlier this season. And we even said on this show, we said, if they could just split the weekend against Denver, that's a success. And they did better than that. They swept the weekend against Denver in Denver. We already talked about it. And Artem Schlane talked about, that weekend in Denver, what it kind of did for their team, what they took away from that weekend in Denver. So here's what he had to say.
I believe we're a really good team when we're fresh. And I think coaches are doing everything for us to be fresh come Friday. They're a really skilled team. They're really good up and down the rink. So we just got to stick, again, to our plan of putting pucks behind them and kind of grinding them down, playing our game, because we're a fast team too and we can make plays as well. So it's going to come down who's going to play a more kind of grittier game, I would say, and get kind of on the defenseman more and, bury their chances at the end of the day.
One of the things that, helped ASU that weekend and against them at home as well in that win and overtime loss series was ASU's defense and playing good defense. We've talked a ton about their offense. We already talked about Ryan Kerwin being, setting a program record and being second in that whole NCAA. We have guys like Artem Schlane who bring a lot to the offense. We talked about the goaltending. But defense is something that ASU is not a big team like some other teams in the NCAA. But when they're locked in on defending, they can win games well. And that was something that was addressed, what Coach Powers said that they kind of struggled with this weekend or this past weekend against UMD, and something that helped them win against Denver multiple times this year. So defense is really going to be big.
Yeah, we've said they can score. And I think when you're at home, and this may sound strange, but you're at home with that atmosphere inside Mullet Arena, I think your energy levels are different, and you're more exuberant and more likely to chase pucks, and it's hard to focus on your task at hand because you have so much energy and you want to impress your home fans. And that's where I think some of that defensive structure fell apart. And Powers said that they struggled a little bit in the defensive zone in that game. Not struggled, but they just need to tighten it up. And I think when they're a focused team, this team can defend. I mean, we saw it. I went to the Michigan series against a bigger, stronger forward group, and I thought they defended extremely well in front of their goaltender. But one of the things they've had in the second half is when they have had defensive lapses, Luke Pavicic has been there to make outstanding saves. With Denver and their offensive abilities, and they're coming at ASU hard, they're going to have to play better in front of the blue paint. They're going to have to limit the second opportunities. They're going to have to let Pavicic see the puck, and they're going to have to tie up sticks. They're not getting the tips and the change of directions. They're going to have to defend really well. They're confident. Powers is confident. We heard Artem Schlein. He's incredibly confident that they can defend. They just have to do it. You're not looking at a team that can. Don't get in a shootout with Denver. No. To try to, and that's why, again, I said the longer this goes scoreless, better for ASU. The longer that score stays down, I think you're seeing then that ASU's defense is there and has come to play. Absolutely.
Well, this is a big game for many reasons. Obviously, we want to see ASU go as far as possible in the NCHC tournament, but an unfortunate reality. Well, it's kind of two sides of a coin. Yep. ASU being in a conference for the first time means that they have a different path in if they want. Just like in all of the NCAA sports, you win your conference, you have an automatic bid. Yeah. ASU needs to win the NCHC tournament to make it to the tournament. All year long, we were studying the pairwise rankings. What can they do? What can they do? Unfortunately, they had a bunch of games that went to overtime that they admit they should have won those games. It could have made all the difference. ASU has to win to get in.
Yeah, it's funny. Unlike college basketball where you get a committee and you vote and you put teams in different slots and rankings, college hockey goes by a computer, the pairwise computer. The computer knows all, and it ranks every game you play based on who you played, where you played, when you played, what the score was, and how you competed on those metrics. And it throws it all in the computer, and the computer ranks those teams, and whatever the ranking is, that's where you sit. So unfortunately for ASU, they're the number 11 team in the country right now. Number 11. 16 teams make the tournament. You're like, okay, they're in, but they're not. They're the 15th ranked team in the pairwise computer, 15th. And they cannot move up with a win over Denver in the semifinals. They have to win both games. And one of the things, because surprisingly, I did some research.
Wow.
And you've got two. You've got the CCHA where Minnesota State wins. And Minnesota State's ranked lower in the pairwise computer, but they won their conference tournament, so it's an automatic bid and they're in. You go to the Atlantic Hockey standings, Atlantic Hockey America standings, and their finals are this weekend. Big burner. And again, no offense to either of these programs. It's just when you talk about the major programs in college hockey, these two don't usually come to mind, and it's Holy Cross plays Bentley. Bentley can make the NCAA tournament, and ASU can't unless they win their tournament. And to me,
where is Bentley?
I don't know. I'm not knocking it because my dad coached Bemidji State, and everybody goes, "Where's Bemidji State?" So I get it. But Bentley is number 25th in the pairwise computer, and you can't find them on the top 25 board in college hockey rankings. But they would make it into the tournament. One of those two teams, then they're both below ASU. And what happened to ASU is they struggled at the beginning of the season with injuries. We talked about how important that first part of the season was for ASU, and there are two losses that if they win these games, they're in. Second game of the year in Air Force, 3-2 they were ahead into the third period against Air Force. Again, Frank Serratori coached Air Force team, competes incredibly hard, but they beat Air Force the night before. They needed a win in regulation. They don't get it. They go to overtime. And the one that really hurt was this January. They played Colorado College. They were ahead 4-1 in the third period, and they lost in regulation. Those two, and again, it's I'm not speculating
Greg Powers
here.
probably like lies
can you
awake
imagine?
at night.
Because I'm not speculating. This is fact because it's the computer, and you can go on their website and you can actually put games in with different outcomes and see what would have happened if ASU wins those two games in regulation.
They're in.
They're in.
Oh. All right, so they got to win.
They got to win. So this is really important. And we've seen them beat Denver. They beat them 3 times. It's a winnable game. You go to Western Michigan on the Saturday game at 7:30
Well,
Central.
you're just assuming Western Michigan wins.
I am. Sorry, North Dakota, my alma mater. And again, I know I want to talk about Western Michigan. North Dakota can win that game. Like North Dakota wins big games. That's what they do. Brad Berry and the North Dakota staff, they can win that game. There is absolutely no doubt. We've seen how ASU competes against North Dakota. They're comfortable playing either of these teams, but they're the only team in the NCHC that has beaten Western Michigan in regulation. The only one in the entire league that has beaten Western Michigan in regulation. So they have and that's recent. That was in the last few weeks of the season. So they have a little level of confidence that they really believe they can win this tournament. And you're right. North Dakota's lower in the rankings. They upset Omaha, Nebraska to get into this tournament. They had to travel to Omaha, win that series in 3 games, so they're able to move on to this tournament. They can do it. Like I would normally look at this tournament and go, gosh, ASU lucky to be there in their first year at the NCHC, and hey, this is a win, and it's a great. They can win. They can win this tournament. They are strong enough offensively to tighten up, and their goaltender has to play outstanding. But that's for any of the 4 teams. Yeah. Your goaltender has to be good. You can't give up that week one. ASU has a chance to win this tournament. And I'm not just blowing smoke because I'm here in Arizona and I've been around this program a lot. This team can win. They can win this tournament. And I don't know.
And I think they believe it.
They do believe it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
That goes a long way. So I'm excited too. It's been really fun, and I hope they win because I want to keep talking about this team. It's so fun.
You and I get to talk hockey together.
I know, it's so fun. So obviously, if they go on a run, we're gonna talk about their matchups in the NCAA tournament. But this has been really fun, and it's been fun in our PHNX Discord. We've been like live messaging all throughout the games, which has been really fun. So definitely become a diehard for PHNX, and make sure you grab a Hockey Belongs in the Desert tee from store.allcitynetwork.com. Yeah, great one. Great to have. Both Powers and Artem Schlane said that this weekend in the post-game availability. And we also want you to follow along at PHNX_hockey. We'll be live tweeting the games there as well as we were all of last weekend. And if you want to see some film breakdowns,
maybe I'll do ASU.
Maybe that's when you can head over to PD's channel Inside the Coach's Room.
Inside the Coach Room. If you need to learn a little bit more about hockey, we do it on video. And there's an actual explainer. If you don't know the game very well, before you watch the ASU games this weekend, jump over to Inside the Coach's Room on YouTube, and I have a 20-minute basic rules, teaches you everything about the game from what the lines on the ice for to face-offs to rules. So check it out. Yeah, there you have it. So like we said, if ASU keeps going, we'll be here on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel previewing, talking about everything. But if not, any big hockey news relating to Arizona, we will be here talking about it because we're here to serve this awesome community. Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, no. I wish we could have like a countdown clock, but I don't know what I would set the time at. So I'm just going to leave that be. But in the meantime, we have an awesome team to rally behind. So everybody get on board, get on the ASU hockey bandwagon, whether they go the distance or last weekend was their last win. Let's talk to D-line.
Ooh.
If they get to the NCAA tournament, let's see if we got any juice.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit the like button on this video if you're listening on audio. Hit subscribe so you never miss our random drops of these episodes lately. Exactly. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at PHNX_hockey, at SPetersHockey, at Leah Merrall. Any final thoughts? That's going to do it. Stay tuned this weekend, and hopefully you get to see us again next week. Yes, absolutely. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you all. Enjoy watching the games, hopefully both Friday and Saturday. But until next time, have a great week, everyone.